Good morning and welcome to the Bowling University studios from the International Bowling Campus in Arlington, Texas. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Bednar and I'll be your host for this episode of the Bowling University Tuesday Morning Profit Break. The Tuesday Morning Profit Break is an opportunity for sharing insights on how to grow revenue, reduce costs, and enrich yourself, your team, and your business. We have another great show to share with you today, so we welcome our new viewers and welcome back to those of you joining us again. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your busy day. So grab your cup of coffee or whatever your favorite morning beverage might be, and let's get started improving your profitability. Today we have with us a special returning guest, Mr. Ryan Gromfin. Ryan's culinary journey began as a teenager after watching great chefs and personalities on TV. This led him to culinary arts programs at Johnson & Wales, where he graduated with honors. After a successful career working with five-star hotels and operating 4 restaurants, Ryan began sharing his knowledge and expertise with others. As the restaurant boss, Ryan is the most followed restaurant coach in the world and a professional speaker helping restaurant owners and operators increase profits, improve operations, and scale and grow their business. You can see why Ryan has presented for us at Bowl Expos and boot camps and management schools. Ryan, thanks for joining us and sharing with our audience today.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, we have the issues going on with the staffing and everything in the world today. It's a new world, right? And you have something like what you call these systems and checklists, which I think are going to help our audience. So some clients, I had to write this down. Some clients have called you the systematologist. You always talk about systems and checklists. Wait a second, is that even a word?
I don't know if it's a word, but
okay.
one of my clients a while ago called me, he says, Ryan, you're like the systematologist. Everything has a system with you. Everything's got a system. I'm like,
well,
yes,
everything
needs a system.
Right. Well, what's the most important thing an operator needs to know about systems?
Systems are black and white. Systems are right or wrong. Systems allow you to manage the system instead of managing the person. One of the things that I believe is that we don't like to be managed. It's natural. It's fine. Think of a time when you were an employee and you had a manager, and not even personalities, but did you really love being managed? Did you love when your manager was telling you everything going wrong or everything you could have done better? The reality is we just don't love being managed. And so when we're able to remove ourselves from managing the person and manage the system, operations become a little more black and white. We remove some of that personality conflict, some favoritism, but more than anything, we create the standards for how things are done, for what is right and what is wrong. And one of the most important things is that we make sure that when we're building these systems, when we're rolling out these systems, that we roll them out in a way that our team knows these are here to help them. These are not systems, let's say a checklist, for example, where we want them to check things off as they, like a porter may be coming in and getting the shoes set up and the bowling ball set up and cleaning the lanes, and there's all these different items there. We want to make sure that that person knows the checklist is here to help you. It's here to help you do your job better. It's here to help you make sure that you don't forget something and then we're a little behind in our operation or something wasn't done properly. So it's very, very important that when we roll out some of these different systems that we let the team member know this is not a tool to get you in trouble. This is not something that we're going to put in your file and come back to in 6 weeks and say, well, you didn't do this on this date 4 months ago. Throw them out at the end of the week. It doesn't matter. These are there to make sure that your team has the tools they need to succeed. We all have a lot going on in our lives as operators, as employees, as just husbands, parents, wives, brothers, sisters. It's hard for us to remember everything we have to do. And so to create that replicatable, duplicatable process and procedure and accountability and level of detail, having the systems is just so important.
Think about some of our members that are really small. They may only be 2 or 3 members, 2 or 3 staff members in place. Does a system make sense to them?
Absolutely. And it's, in many ways, it's more important. I heard you guys saying off camera that, what do you guys say here a lot? People come and go, but systems stay. And I love that. I've never heard that before, but it's absolutely true, and I love it. So in the smaller operations, it could even be more important than in the larger operations. Where in a larger operation where you may have 3 or 4 porters or 3 or 4 cooks, something being forgotten can be picked up on. But sometimes in the smaller operations, it's very important that everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, because there are so many things that need to get taken care of. I can also understand, though, how it can feel a little overwhelming, because when I work with a lot of restaurant owners and operators, when they're smaller, they feel like, I have one cook, he's been doing the job forever, what do I need this for? Well, we have to start thinking about this in two ways. One, what if that cook leaves? What if something happens to that cook? What if there's a challenge? They get into a car accident, they're out for a couple of weeks with COVID, whatever it is. We want to make sure that there's a continuation, that the next person's able to do that job the same way. But also, sometimes we get caught up in this circle where we feel like we don't have the time to do the things we want to do. We hear the cliche, to work, you want to spend more time working in your business instead of, or I'm sorry, you want to spend more time working on your business instead of in your business. And one of the challenges is that when we don't have those systems in place, when we don't have an opening checklist, a closing checklist, cash handling procedures, let's say, we end up doing more of the things ourselves because we don't trust other people to do them. And then what ends up happening is we spend so much of our time working in the business. So find yourself a half hour a week to build one process, one procedure, one system that might, over the next couple of weeks, free you up that half hour that now gives you the time to work on something else in your business you want to do, something that might help you grow your business or give you a little more freedom, let you go home a little earlier one day, because now we have a process that we trust someone else to follow. So I think systems are equally as important, if not more important, in smaller operations than just in the large ones.
Oh, what great words of advice. Now, everything you've mentioned to this point seems to be for the entire business, that not just the food and beverage business. What specifically about the food and beverage should be some of the checklists and systems they want to look at?
So absolutely, I call these the absolute critical, mission critical. You have to have them. Checklists, which are going to be for opening procedures and closing procedures mostly. Prep sheets, which are going to be in food and beverage. What do we need to cook today? So when I look at a checklist to me is anything and everything that needs to be on a station to ensure a successful shift. So pens, pencils, spoons, spatulas, diced mozzarella cheese, pepperoni, bell peppers, all the stuff we would need. The prep list is now the stuff that needs to get prepped. So say like mozzarella cheese, if you buy it already diced or shredded, that doesn't necessarily need to go on a prep list because you can just cut the bag open and pour it in. But if you need to grate the mozzarella cheese, then that needs to be on a checklist because I need the mozzarella cheese on the station. But it also goes on a prep sheet or a prep list because now it needs to get prepped, put into the storage so it's ready for us. So checklists, prep sheets, order guides. We can't do whiteboard ordering anymore. We can't do blind ordering where we walk into the walk-in or wherever with a blank piece of paper and just write down what we think we need. We need to have that order guide so we can go down the list. And then build sheets and recipes. Absolutely, those are the core that you need in a restaurant. And then the build sheets is basically how the plate looks, how the basket looks, how the order looks when it goes out with some different descriptions and stuff on there. And then the recipe, of course, is pretty obvious recipes. But checklists, prep sheets, order guides, build sheets, and recipes.
Well, okay, everything you've mentioned so far is like, hey, starting from zero, these are the things we need. What about those people who've already tried this? I've done this. It doesn't work. He's full of it. What do you say to them?
I hear this a lot. I hear, we've tried checklists, Ryan, they don't work. My team doesn't follow them. I have a great little story that I love to tell about this, and then we'll kind of come back and wrap it up here. But I tell this story about, let's say you ran a roofing company, and up until this point, everyone was building their roof with a hammer and nails, like literally standing on the roof, hammering the nails in by hand. And some tool salesman comes up and he says, hey guys, I've got this nail gun. It's a pneumatic nail gun, and you could build a roof twice as fast. And it's easy, and all you got to do is just go do-do, 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 and the nails go flying out, and it's awesome. And the guys are like, yeah, bring it on, let me see it. And we hand him the nail gun, and the guy takes the first nail, and he goes, boom, and the nail backfires and hits him in the shoulder. And the salesman is like, well, it's never happened before. Let me go home, let me get this fixed, I'll bring it back next week. Well, one, how excited are you going to be for him to come back next week? He comes back next week, he hands you the nail gun, he's like, I fixed it, it'll never backfire on you again. Do you really think your guy, your team, do you think you are now going to be like, yeah, let me try that nail gun again? And so one of the challenges we have is we have to overcome a lot of history here sometimes. Is the people on your team, or even you, they've worked in facilities, they've worked in restaurants, they've worked in operations where the systems weren't necessarily built properly. or the systems weren't updated. I see this a lot. I see a checklist laminated with a grease pen, hasn't been updated in a year and a half, hasn't been updated in 4 years. Half of the items on there we're not even using anymore. Well, of course, they're not going to want to use the checklist when you print out a new one and hand it to them, because the last one was so ineffective. It actually made their job harder, not easier. So when we're building out any sort of system or checklist, I believe that I would rather see you as an operator build one opening checklist, take a week to do it, I mean a couple hours, but over the period of a week, roll it out slowly, work with your team to make sure it has everything on there in the right orders, build their confidence that this is actually a useful tool and is going to help them, then work on the next one, rather than sometimes people, they come to the seminar, they're like, you're right, systems, processes, procedures, they hear me speak, they see a video, they're like, I'm gonna do this. They spend a week, they build out 30 checklists, 30 recipes, 30 build sheets, but there's little mistakes in them and they're not perfect, and they hand them out to their team and they don't actually help. And then now again, we've just put up that wall where now people are like, oh, they don't work, we've tried them. So I think rolling them out properly, rolling them out slowly, rolling them out effectively, your team will use them and start to realize that, wow, I am able to set up my station better. I am able to get through service better because of this. And then we get to a point, I call it kind of the aha moment, we get to a point where your team members are asking you like, hey, we have a new menu coming out. Do you have the new checklist yet? Do you have the new build sheets? I want to start studying those. And that's when you've made it. In my opinion, that's Valhalla.
So it's perpetuating the next step to the process. You had mentioned several, I wrote them down, checklists, chosen classics, checklists, pre-sheets, sidewalk, recipes, build sheets, things of that nature. We have time, just a little time left, so let's take a moment and don't have a lot of time left, but beyond those 4 or 5 things, what would be the next level for the people who are already doing this? What would be the next level of process for them?
There is absolutely no end to systems. You can create systems for systems for systems. The way that I like to look at this is, are we firefighting or are we fire preventing? If one of the complaints I get, especially as businesses start to scale and open up multiple locations, or even in smaller operators, is the distractions, the constant knocking on the office door or the constant needing of a manager's assistance to help with something. And so the question I always want to ask myself is, if someone asks you a question today, if you can't point them to a document or a process or a system for how to get through that, put it on your list and go ahead and make one, because they might ask that question again in 6 months, or more likely a new employee, a new team member, someone different on your team is going to ask you that same question again. And rather than having to answer this every 6 months or every 3 months or every week over and over and over again, I know as an operator, I used to feel that. I felt like I was answering the same questions over and over again. That was just me not building out the systems, the processes, the procedures, the documentation. This takes on many different forms. And so I like to call this, the local firemen, they don't really put out fires that often anymore because we've gotten so good at fire prevention. We build with fireproof materials. Kitchens are made out of stainless steel and FRP, and we have Ansel systems. And so we see our firemen more coming in to inspect our Ansel systems and make sure that they're working and make sure that we're building properly to prevent the fire in the first place. So let's become fire preventers in our business rather than firefighters.
Very good. Well, Ryan, thanks for coming out and spending some time and giving some valuable information to our members about systems and checklists, specifically for the food systems, but you can also expand this to anywhere within your business. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd like to connect with Ryan and learn a little more about running your food service operations and specifically systems, since he's a systematologist, you can reach him at therestaurantboss.com. As we wrap up another edition of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break, remember, when your focus is on growing your people, people will grow your business. We look forward to seeing you next week at 10:15 Eastern for another great episode of the Tuesday Morning Profit Break. If you have any other questions about today's show or would like additional information, you can reach us at education@bpaa.com. Also, if you and your team want to watch any of our previous episodes 24/7, you can do so by visiting bowlinguniversity.net. Until then, I'm Kelly Bednar, and do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. See you next week.